escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Humm.
I'm Ann Northrup.
And isn't it nice being talked about? If you've been watching the news lately, you've heard Republican presidential hopefuls Rick Perry, Mitt Romney, and Newt Gingrich make headlines on LGBT rights issues, and they don't like us.
That's only the tip of the iceberg. But we can look to the National Basketball Association, back in business for backing gay rights for its players.
A lesbian couple in Hawaii, without anybody's permission, is suing for the right to marry.
We'll dissect that. And Orlando, Florida is the latest municipality to set up a domestic partner registry with a very moving speech by a city commissioner there. We'll show you that.
Our friends in Anchorage, Alaska have filed to put a measure on the November ballot to protect rights based on sexual orientation. And they don't exactly say gender identity. They use another phrase.
Yeah, and they've tried before, but they're trying again. The British government, take note, it'd be nice if the U.S. government did this, has announced a plan to promote the safety and equality of transgender people.
It would be nice.
What a concept.
We're going to talk about a lot of plays. A very busy time in the theater season, including 3 one-man Irish monologues. I will be brief. But including John Hurt in Krapp's Last Tape. Okay. We saw Lysistrata Jones, written by Douglas Carter Beane.
I saw half of it.
And we'll review that half. And I saw all of Bonnie and Clyde, although they didn't get all their clothes off. A gayified version of On a Clear Day You Can See Forever with Harry Connick, and a play I really liked, if you don't stay to the end of the show, Stickfly, about an African-American family on Martha's Vineyard.
But we start in the land of Oz with all the Republican presidential candidates. Some of this you know, but we want to discuss it in a little depth. So we will start by showing you the infamous Rick Perry ad where he talks about us and religion and a couple other things. Let's roll Rick Perry.
I'm not ashamed to admit that I'm a Christian, but you don't need to be in the pew every Sunday to know that there's something wrong in this country when gays can serve openly in the military, but our kids can't openly celebrate Christmas or pray in school. As president, I'll end Obama's war on religion, and I'll fight against liberal attacks on our religious heritage. Faith made America strong. It can make her strong again. I'm Rick Perry, and I approve this message.
Now, Rick, I have to disagree with you. You do have to be in the pew every Sunday if you want to go to heaven in the Catholic Church. It is a mortal sin not to go to Mass.
I want to know, first of all, we could dissect this phrase by phrase, but he starts off by saying, I'm not ashamed to say I'm a Christian. I find that a very strange construction. Who said he should be ashamed to say that?
Look, it feeds into the whole persecution complex that a lot of Christians have. You know, they used to talk about us as being, oh, get over your victimology. You're always playing the victim. We had a viewer write to us this week. I haven't shared this with you because it's going to take a long time to respond to him. Don't you people like anything? You know, you all want special rights anyway.
Well, I think Rick Perry's cute.
Well, he's wearing the jacket from Brokeback Mountain.
Exactly. That was one of the first things people
noticed. And the music
noticed.
In the background is by gay composer Aaron Copland, who is also Jewish and a communist.
And, of course, there are all the rumors that Rick Perry is gay.
Which, even though Larry Flynt has offered $1 million for any true reports about Rick Perry's heterosexual or homosexual affairs, no one seems to have come forward for the $1 million.
Well, I'm not sure I'd rat on a guy with that many guns either. But this one ad has, if ever you wanted a barometer, a time stamp for where the movement stands, this is it. As we tape on Tuesday afternoon, 650,000 dislikes of this ad on what, YouTube?
Yeah, and well, he wants to be disliked by us. That's the strategy.
I think it
he
goes
wants
beyond
us on the
us.
other side. Well, of course it goes beyond us, and it doesn't help you with independent voters, and that's what we're going to talk about in reference to these other candidates as well.
All right. Well, he offended even people in his own campaign. It turns out that his chief pollster is gay, Tony Fabrizio.
Yes.
Why are you working for Rick Perry is the first question, Tony. But when Go Proud, the very right-wing gay Republicans, started yelling at Tony Fabrizio for being gay and working for Rick Perry, and while this ad was being produced, even though Tony objected to this ad and thought it was nuts, quote unquote, Andrew Breitbart, who was
a
even
right-winger.
crazier.
He's a right-winger. He's the one who edited the tape on Shirley Sherrod from the NAACP to make her look like a racist. He's a dog.
And he resigned from the Go Proud board on the grounds that
I don't believe in outing, and it's you know, this is just terrible.
these people are driving themselves crazy. But not only have there been 650,000 dislikes, there have been 700 parody videos made on this video. So we thought we'd show you one that you may not have run across yet.
I'm not ashamed to say that I'm a Jew. Heck, I'm even a rabbi. But you don't have to be in shul on every Shabbos to know that there's something wrong in our country when gays can serve openly in the military and yet they still can't marry each other in most U.S. states. Our Jewish kids have to be in school and watch as their peers celebrate Christmas, a holiday they don't observe. And they have to sit quietly as the Christian students pray in school. That just seems uncomfortable. As president, I will fight to end this crazy talk about a war on religion. And I will fight anyone who discriminates on the basis of sexual orientation. Intelligence made our country strong, and it will make her strong again. I'm Rabbi Jason Miller, and I think it's too cold to film a video out here in Michigan during the winter. Who approved this?
Well, if you go to YouTube to watch any of these, you will see a multitude of parodies of this thing.
I like the fact that they're all wearing the Carhartt jacket and they all found the same spot in the woods to film them. It's really great. But it was this instant reaction, and that's very heartwarming.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he did himself any good with the right wing?
No.
'Cause that's what he's trying to save himself
No,
with.
because he humiliated himself. This ad was embarrassing to Rick Perry.
But they all hold the same basic positions on our issues,
But
basically.
he didn't break any new ground. He didn't say anything that people didn't already know about him. And I think all of this is educating the independents and is, you know, Barack Obama looked like a saint on 60 Minutes this weekend, being thoughtful and temperate and smart about everything.
Who's going to win the election?
Barack Obama, if it were held today.
You think?
Yes, because they just go right down the line. And this week's gaffe, or one of them, was Mitt Romney, who was campaigning in New Hampshire.
His home territory where he didn't think he was going to have to do any work.
Yeah, so he goes into a typical New Hampshire thing. He goes into a diner to meet people at breakfast, and he spots this Vietnam vet, this older guy.
So he slides in next to him. They're the same age. They're trading war stories. Of course, Mitt, where were you when Vietnam was being fought, Mitt?
Well, the vet asks him this, and Mitt says, well, I was, you know, doing the mission for my church.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Emphasize that you're a Mormon. People really want to hear that. And but the vet, it turns out, has another agenda.
And he does a slow reveal. If you have to listen carefully to this videotape.
Oh, hi there. How are you guys doing?
Good morning, Governor.
Good morning.
Pleasure meeting you.
Good to meet you. Thank you. How are you, sir? Good to meet you. Can I sit down with you here?
You certainly may.
Good. What do you got on this hat here? Veteran. Vietnam veteran.
Yeah,
Wow.
I have a question.
Where did you serve, by the way?
I served in the Army in 1966, 1967.
66, 67. I was, let's see, I would have been
From college.
I was just getting out of college. I graduated from high school in 65. 65, and then I went to college for a year, and then off to serve my church for a couple of years. We're the same age. We're the same age. I appreciate your service. Yes, sir.
New Hampshire right now is legislation finding same-sex marriage.
Yes.
And all I need is a yes or a no.
Okay.
Do you support?
I support repealing. I support the repeal of the New Hampshire law. I believe marriage is between a man and a woman. That's my view.
Okay, that means that if you're in the White House, you will not support any form of legislation that would change that so that servicemen would be entitled to benefits like a man and a woman. If two men get married, apparently a veteran spouse would not be entitled to burial benefits or medical benefits or anything that the serviceman devoted his time and effort to his country. And you just don't support equality in terms of same-sex marriage.
I believe that marriage is a relationship between a man and a woman.
Meaning?
And the Defense of Marriage Act that exists in Washington today defines benefits for whether for veterans or for non-veterans is between married spouses, and for me that's a man and a woman. And we apparently disagree on that.
It's good to know how you feel that
That's
you do
right.
not believe that everyone is entitled to their constitutional rights.
No, actually, I think at the time the Constitution was written, it was pretty clear that marriage is between a man and a woman, and I don't believe the Supreme Court has changed that.
Governor, we got to get on the
That's
Fox
right.
News right now. Oh, I guess the question was too hot.
No, I gave you the
I'll
answer.
have a good day.
You said you had a yes or no answer. I gave you the yes.
You did, and I appreciate your answer. And you know, I also learned something, and New Hampshire is right. You have to look a man in the eye to get a good answer. And you know what, Governor? Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good day to you, sir.
You're gonna do
Thank you. You are right about that. Thanks. Good to meet you. Thanks, guys. Good to see you. Thank you. You too.
When the Constitution was written, Hamilton was still having his affair with Washington, and General von Steuben was, saving the country. He's a gay. They're all gays.
Also, when the Constitution was written, women couldn't vote.
And a slave was 3/5 of a person.
Yes. My disappointment, though, while I appreciate that guy's attempt to nail Mitt Romney, is he didn't introduce the guy across the table who is his husband.
Yeah, he should have done that.
And he should have been more explicit about saying.
Maybe the husband said, "Keep me out of it."
Well, I don't think so.
But look, it has sparked a lot of discussion. It made Romney look very
Absolutely.
bad. I love that stuff. More individuals are doing this around the country where these candidates appear, just average people who are quite articulate about the issues.
We showed the high school girl last week
needs spokespersons?
who went after Michelle Bachmann. On
The 8-year-old.
The 8-year-old went after her the book signing, but the high school girl went after her about the GSA. Newt Gingrich has been glitter bombed. They're doing those dances outside Marcus Bachmann's clinic. We've showed that.
When I converted to gay activism in 1970, I guess it was 4 or 5, presidential candidates were coming to University of Virginia where I was, and I felt it was my obligation to anybody running for president, and I had a series of questions that I wrote out. It was much too long. It's not as cool as these guys. And so I would do it. A guy named Harris, who was running from, remember him?
Yes.
Who was running for president.
From Oklahoma.
Walter Mondale, who was pretty terrible. But finally I got a note slipped under my door saying, "Stop doing this, you're embarrassing us."
Well,
you're not embarrassing us.
None of these
Mr.
people are embarrassing
Garin.
us.
No, they're not. And they're doing a great job.
They're doing a very great job, much better than any actual organization, and keep it up. If you find yourself in any proximity to any of these presidential candidates, raise these issues, but be succinct, be out, be clear, and go after them.
Yeah, do it in a sympathetic way.
Yeah.
Because that'll win us.
Rick Santorum has been attacked on this stuff.
Many times.
He said this week that legalizing gay marriage would force sex ed about being gay in schools, and you'd have to teach equality.
Yeah, right.
But John Huntsman, who everyone gives credit for being the great liberal, says the Defense of Marriage Act has been a very useful law.
Serves a useful purpose. It allows states to make their own decisions. So, but we will remind you that even though Obama ostensibly does not support same-sex marriage, he does say that the Defense of Marriage Act is unconstitutional and is not defending it in court.
Should be repealed, and he's doing his best to get some kind of benefits and recognition for same-sex couples in all sorts of arenas.
Right.
And Candace Gingrich.
Sorry, it's Candace Gingrich.
Gingrich? Oh, she's gone back to the...
No, the rest of the family says the name is Gingrich. So and her name is Gingrich Jones now, hyphen Jones. He's the only one who says Gingrich.
Oh, okay. Because he likes rich at the end of his name?
I don't know. In politics, people just like it to be easier for people so that they don't have to correct people. So
no, I like saying it's the old Tiffany line. It's Gingrich.
I mean, Geraldine Ferraro used her maiden name because it played better than Zaccaro, which didn't have as much resonance in the Italo-American community.
Well, Candace Gingrich Jones has announced that she will not be supporting her half-brother for president. She is supporting Barack Obama.
Well, she said she especially takes issue with her brother saying that gay marriage is a, quote, temporary aberration. She says opposition to marriage equality is the aberration. He says he does not treat my wife, Rebecca, and myself differently from my sister and her husband at family gatherings, and he did give them a wedding gift and a shower gift.
Really?
Yes.
Well, then he's an even bigger hypocrite than we thought.
Exactly. But he wouldn't go to the wedding. He was he made himself scarce and was out of the country.
He also said this week he will work to throw gay people out of the military. Mitt Romney said...
After an extensive review. All he promised was an extensive review. And don't worry, I'm not letting transgenders in, Gingrich.
Well, neither is anyone else at the moment.
But he also would not impose penalties on service members who spoke out against the ban. But he would oppose military gay pride events. You know, this is supposed to be a free country, free expression. You're going to start issuing orders about this?
Well, in the same vein, I'm happy to report that in Congress, as they debate the defense authorization bill, they had the House version, which had anti-gay amendments. They had the Senate version, which took them out. And the Senate version, as we had hoped and expected, has prevailed. They have removed the anti-gay amendments. But our side had also wanted, and the military had wanted, a repeal of the sodomy law that's in the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and they refused to do that.
Well, I remember even asking Howard Dean, darling of the gays, at one time about that, and he went, hamana, 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 hamana.
But the military wants to get rid of it.
Of course.
They've asked to get rid of it.
Well,
and when was the last time they prosecuted a straight person for violating the sodomy law?
Because it does apply to straight people.
It does.
Now, we showed you that tape on Mitt Romney, who did say that being against gays is one of our founding principles. But he is in favor of allowing open service in the military and...
Well, he's decided his opposition has faded.
Yes, and he says, I am in favor of providing for gay people. It's an odd quote. He's opposed to discrimination based on sexual orientation, except in marriage and all these other things. So anyway.
Yeah, don't believe him when they say that.
I'm against marriage and civil unions, if it's anything like marriage. That's what he says.
I love that these people have to talk about it all day long. Except, of course, in the debates, because the networks are not asking them any of these questions.
Right.
They ought to do that.
Well, they were asking them about their own marriages.
Not directly enough.
No, it's true.
Anyway, a little footnote to last week's story about the huge Hillary Clinton speech in Geneva explaining the new Obama administration policy to really push LGBT rights around the world. There was a charming still photo of Hillary with 14 LGBT activists from around the world that just really caught my eye. These are the people who are on the ground doing the work around the world. We tell you about them every week, but I just wanted you to see them as human beings. They're from Malawi, Kenya, South Africa, Colombia, Ukraine, India, Lithuania, Russia, the Philippines, Uganda, Croatia, Moldova, and Cameroon.
And if you can tell which is which, you'll win a free copy. No. Great group.
Really great group and really doing great work. And we're just so grateful that they, as these individuals in the United States are taking the initiative to do the work here, so are people around the world. And that is what is making us successful.
But Pat Robertson is having trouble getting attention these days. So he did by taking on Hillary. Somebody's got to do it. And let's go to the videotape for that.
Isn't it appalling that the United States of America would try to enforce the acceptance of homosexuality on other nations, but at the same time we would not force them to take care of their religious minorities, and they would permit discrimination and persecution of Christians? What kind of a country have we got? And you know, there is a God in heaven, and he is just. Thomas Jefferson said, I tremble when I remember that God is just. He is just. He's not going to allow this kind of thing to go on forever. This country cannot continue to violate God's principles and to make a mockery of his laws and think we're going to get away with it. And when the blow comes, it's going to be horrible.
I think that Pat
You've been warned.
I think Pat Robertson worships a false god.
You think?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, we couldn't resist. There was a lot of reaction on both sides to Hillary's speech in the Obama administration announcement. There were people here saying, you hypocrites, look what's going on in this country. There were people around the world saying, how dare you say this to us? And then there was cheering all over the place. So I thought it was a bold statement. I'm glad they did it.
All right, let's go back to domestic affairs again.
Oh, okay. Well, here's my favorite moment of the week, actually. I don't have the tape of this, but you know, the Keith Olbermann show has been obsessed with the Occupy movement, which I think is fantastic, and I just love watching that every night. I recommend that on Current TV at 8 o'clock. But he was showing, you know, I'm very taken with the Occupy movement in D.C. They have gone and moved into K Street offices. They've moved into congressional offices and literally occupied them for days on end.
They have a sense of humor.
Fantastic. They showed up at a big fundraiser and rolled out a red carpet and all lay down under it and said, go ahead, walk all over us. But they invaded a Gingrich fundraiser at the Willard Hotel in Washington, which is right across the street from the White House. And they just walked in, and everybody was in shock for a while, and then they threw them out. And who did they get on tape? The angriest, biggest guy tossing the Occupy people out of the Newt Gingrich fundraiser. Brian Brown of the National Organization for Marriage. Right on tape, throwing them out.
I have to admit, one time I'm covering a human rights campaign dinner, you know, at the Waldorf, and upstairs there's a guy, a right-wing nut, screaming at Ed Koch, the former mayor of New York, closet case, who's giving a speech, and I'm thinking, I don't like Ed Koch, so I'm going to let it go for a while. But then I said, well, nobody was upstairs, nobody could do it. I was a reporter upstairs. So finally, I actually grabbed the guy and said, come on, we got to go. We got to get on with the dinner here. So,
you activist, you. Whereas I saw Roger Ailes throw an ACT UP member down the stairs at the Waldorf.
Quite brutal.
Yeah.
Quite brutal. All right, let's go to some good news here. Let's go to the Orlando City Council, which voted unanimously in favor of a domestic partner registry that's going to give limited benefits to same-sex couples. And we have a videotape of one of the...
All couples. It's a domestic partner registry for both straight and same-sex couples, for those who are unmarried, to allow them to, you know, designate beneficiaries, handle funeral arrangements, do all the domestic partner registry kinds of things. So the City Council in Orlando was debating this, and one of the council members gave a speech as a conservative Republican about his decision on how to vote on this bill.
No, that's fine. Thank you. I think everybody knows I'm pretty conservative in my ways, and coming from the culture I come, I had a struggle I had a big struggle with this decision, and the community here, they know about, because of my values. And Minister, I heard you talking, and that's something I've been thinking about for a long time. I also know that in the Old Testament we had codes like the old code of Hammurabi, you know, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. We used to stone and ostracize leopards, and we used to do all those things. But when Jesus Christ came, he abolished all those things. The main message he sent is, let's love one another. And this particular ordinance, I scrutinized it, and I looked at it from every other way because of my religious background and because of my conservative ways. But this is not about the way of life they have. This is about being human. This is about allowing each other to take care of things that in the past, because of the way we think and because of our, I don't know if I want to call it ignorance or whatnot, we have discriminated against certain people. There are 7 issues here: healthcare facility, healthcare decisions, funeral burials, correctional facilities, notification of family members, pre-need guardian designation. These are things that human beings deal with every day. Doesn't matter if they are gay, lesbians, or heterosexuals or whatnot. These are just simple things. I don't think we have to go to the extent of really scrutinize this to the level of this being a gay or lesbian issue. I think this is everybody's issue. I think this is about being human, taking care of our fellow brothers and sisters. And I do know where you come from. As I said, I thought about this very much. But at the end of the day, we have to think of our fellow brothers and sisters. And I think God is going to judge us individually. And you know, it's pretty sad to be on a bed by yourself in a hospital just because somebody is not registered as a family member. At the end of the day, I think it's more important in this particular case to think about the humanity that this involves. So I'm going to support this. Thank you.
That was Commissioner Tony Ortiz from District 2 in Orlando, and he does not worship a false god. He worships the true God.
Well, he worships a little confused God with some of his statements.
But he's basically saying let's love one another, and you know, come on.
Well, the idea that so-called Christians can twist the message of love that is in the religion to hate us is just astonishing.
That's how they make their money.
I guess so.
That's how they make their money. In Colorado, by the way, the new poll says 76% of people in that state support partnership rights for gays and lesbians.
And 47% versus 43% saying no support actual same-sex marriage. They're going to reintroduce a civil unions bill there next year. They had one waiting to be voted on this year, and it looked like it was going to pass, but it got referred to a committee that was dominated by conservatives, and they stalled it and stopped it. So they're going to try again in Colorado on civil unions this year. Meanwhile, in Anchorage, Alaska, where have I got that? LGBT activists have got enough signatures for a vote in April when they're holding a mayoral vote on a non-discrimination policy that would include sexual orientation and some kind of gender identity.
Transgender.
Version.
They use the word transgender.
Okay. The local Anchorage City Council had passed such a law 2 years ago, but the right-wing mayor, who is still mayor, vetoed it, and he's running for re-election. This time they're going to put it to a public referendum, which he will not get to veto. And they've got new Christians for Equality groups supporting it.
And it's very rare for us, for our side, to want to bring referenda because we generally don't believe you should be voting on civil rights issues, but sometimes that's the only way you can get something.
Absolutely. So a lesbian couple in Hawaii, however, is not going for a referendum. You know, there was a big battle in Hawaii over civil unions this last year. They passed civil unions. This is all with a history of 15 years ago trying to do marriage in Hawaii, the first big modern-day case.
The story on this, by the way, says that Hawaii banned same-sex marriage, which they did not. by constitutional amendment, they gave the power to the legislature to regulate marriage, and all the legislature's been willing to do so far. Originally, they did something called reciprocal benefits. Now they have full domestic partnerships, which are supposed to be
civil unions, which become legal in January.
Equal, which are supposed to be equal.
Well,
they're not.
be,
They never are, but
yeah.
it includes everything that's listed. But this couple says we want to get married. Civil union doesn't do it. It's not the same thing.
It's not even in effect yet, and they're going for marriage. Which is how this all started in Hawaii 15 years ago. Several couples decided they wanted to get married. So
several years, 1990, well, it was in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Well, that's when the case was decided.
Yeah,
we won that case at the lower court level, by the way, which is what set off this whole thing in this country.
Plus ça change.
You know.
Anyway, so a lesbian couple in Hawaii is, again, suing for marriage rights there.
Having said that, there were earlier marriage cases back in the early 70s.
There was action to some extent on the Prop 8 case in California, which is going to turn out to be like Bleak House and Jarndyce versus Jarndyce and take forever. But the Ninth Circuit held a hearing on several issues.
Now understand, this is a panel of judges that has already heard the case.
Yes.
But then they said, well, we're not sure if the people who just argued in favor of Prop 8 have standing. So they sent that to the California Supreme Court, who said, yeah, they should have standing. But this court, which is a federal court, has not ruled on the standing issue. But that's not what they were deciding this or hearing about this week. This week they're hearing the whole business about should Judge Walker have been allowed to hear this case because he might want to get married himself.
No.
Now, we think that that's not going to be a problem. But the other thing that was at issue
there
in
was
this...
great skepticism from the Ninth Circuit judges about that
The other
question.
thing that's... you know, why should a heterosexual judge decide it? Because suppose they want to protect the sanctity of marriage. You know,
exactly.
As they say.
Who comes to this question without this kind of
Exactly.
bias?
So, and the other issue was, when are we going to get to see the tapes of this trial? So far, we've had to deal with dramatizations and things like that.
Well, originally, the news media and our side had wanted the trial televised, and that went all the way to the Supreme Court, which said, no, you don't have to televise it. But the decision was made to tape it for internal use, and Judge Walker said at the time that that the tapes would be part of the trial record. And then he used the parts of them in some speeches he gave, and then the right wing freaked out and said, no, you can't release these in any form. So now they're all in court saying, should the trial tapes be released?
I want to say to my right wing brothers and sisters, don't hide your truth under a bushel basket. Let it shine forth. No, what the hell are they afraid of?
Well, Kate Kendall called their arguments insulting, bigoted, and stigmatizing trash.
Well, what's really sad now is that one of the plaintiffs in this case, and we have a picture of him, his name is Ed Watson. We'll get it up there. He's the guy on the left in this picture that you're going to see. He's one of the plaintiffs in the Prop 8 case, and because this thing has been dragging out so long, if we can get that picture up, he died. He has died.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay, so we may not get that picture up, but there he is on the left.
Guy on the left.
Yeah.
And that's with his partner, Terrence Kernick. They've been together for 40 years, and he did not live to see the resolution of this case. Justice delayed is justice denied.
Right.
That's not in the Bible, but it's true.
By the way, in Illinois, where civil unions have been legal for 6 months, 3,700 licenses have been issued for civil unions in 6 months from virtually every county in Illinois.
Right.
The National Organization for Marriage has released some information on their finances, and for 2010, these things come out slowly, and it reports, and I'm not sure this report is comprehensive, but they report raising just under $10 million. $6 million of it is from 2 people. They're not.
We don't know who they are.
No, they're not required to announce who they are. They're only required to announce, you know, how much from how many people. 92% of their donations are in amounts over $5,000, which means they got about 3 people who are real grassroots supporters.
Right.
This is an organization and a movement, Maggie Gallagher, Brian Brown, that is being financed by a few rich people who are not revealing themselves and who are taking that money through NAM and and laundering it and then giving it to all the anti-same-sex marriage groups around the country, in Maine, in Maryland, in wherever these fights are taking place. And all of this is unrevealed money. And that's what Fred Karger went after them for.
And in Minnesota, you know, where the Catholic Church
some of the money is going there.
Heavily involved in distributing a DVD critical of same-sex marriage, the Campaign Finance Board out there dismissed a complaint that they need to register as a political fund if they're going to do this. The board said that the matter was not directly yet before the state. Well, it's on the ballot in 2012.
Yeah. I guess it has to pass before they will hear the case. Lambda Legal Defense has won spousal benefits for 2 lesbian police officers in Maryland. One couple was married in Massachusetts, another was married in Connecticut. They're legally married. They work in Baltimore, and the Maryland Attorney General had decided at least a year ago that Maryland would be a state like New York that recognized legal marriages performed elsewhere. But these cops were having a hard time getting benefits, so now they have won benefits.
And in the realm of binational couples, a guy named Benjamin Anderson, who's a U.S. Coast Guard veteran who did wed his longtime partner, who's an Italian immigrant, Mattia Lomacca, in Manhattan, they're going to have to leave. They're from Salt Lake City. They got married in New York because you can't get married in Salt Lake City. And they're going to have to leave the country. So it's, but they say they'll be back.
I support the students at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill who are protesting the fact that New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg is going to be their graduation speaker.
Yeah.
This is an Occupy moment. This is a lot of stuff.
It was very rich just to hear Mike Bloomberg criticizing the Obama administration, rightly, for not allowing the morning after pill for the younger teenagers, which is a disgrace on the part of Obama to do that, by the way.
Yes.
But you know, Mike goes, well, I just do everything on science. He did not allow condom lessons for the first 10 years of his administration. He just introduced comprehensive sex education, supposedly, that now, you know, this was, I mean, he knew this was needed 10 years ago.
He's done a lot of horrible things. And when these students protested, he shrugged it off and said, well, when I used to run a university, you know, you had to expect that you weren't doing your job if you didn't get protests like this. I hate when people say that. His idea of I used to run a university is he was the board chair of Johns Hopkins.
Right.
That's running a university?
No.
Not really. All right, let's skip through a few other things. Some educational news. Lady Gaga was at the White House visiting with Obama counselor Valerie Jarrett to discuss bullying. The MacArthur Foundation and Harvard are supporting her Born This Way Foundation.
Well, speaking of bullying,
dedicated to this.
Tyler Clementi's parents, the kid who committed suicide, are speaking out and doing the rounds, and they formed a foundation. You know, it was kind of striking that he had just come out to his parents a couple of weeks earlier before this, and anyway,
the father is quite sympathetic.
They both are. They love their son. Well, the kid in that case is going to trial. He is not accepting a plea.
Yes, and the ACLU has settled with the Copaya, I assume that's the correct pronunciation, I mispronounced Quintana Roo in Mexico last week, thank you for the correction, county school district in Mississippi. Sierra Sturgis was the young student who wanted her picture in the yearbook in a tuxedo. Now all future senior yearbook pictures will be in cap and gown, not sex segregated by tuxedos and drapes.
Right.
And Asheville, North Carolina, there's a new gay-straight alliance of young people that's formed, held its first meeting, and had a huge
150 protesters
from local churches. But they're they're moving on.
And
they're continuing to work at it.
Equality California, or what's left of it, is telling us that there are 4 anti-gay LGBT ballot measures ready for next year's election, and they're being filed by all these right-wing groups. It's mostly to do with the issue of teaching about gays in the schools.
Oh, yes. I thought we're up to 5 on that.
Well, maybe.
The National Basketball Association is back in business, for better or worse, but in their new collective bargaining agreement with the players, they, like the Major League Baseball, have included a sexual orientation non-discrimination
And the
clause.
National Football League as well. So
They had it for their employees, now they have it for the players.
Now is anybody going to come out? Because there's nobody out who's an active player in any of these things, am I right?
John Amici was the retired player who came out.
Yeah, they all come out when they retire.
But the Human Rights Campaign has released its new Corporate Equality Index, which notes 190 corporations getting top marks. That's actually down from 337 because they have instituted more stringent criteria, and that is a good thing. And 76% of Fortune 500 companies now give domestic partner benefits.
So you can go to their website, and they're also saying, where are you going to shop this year? Macy's with a 90% rating, or Neiman Marcus with a 15% rating?
Whoa!
Nike, 100%. Adidas, Reebok, 15%.
Whoa!
You're going to buy a Toyota, 100%, or a Nissan, 30%. It goes on and on and on like that.
Go to hrc.org for more of this information.
Orbitz, 100%. Priceline, 0%.
Whoa!
And the Human Rights Campaign also points out that 77% of voters support protecting us from discrimination.
And the Movement Advancement Project points out that only 3% of LGBT people give to LGBT organizations. 3%.
Wow.
Examine what you're doing, please.
Right. I mean, yeah, I think we should, well, I'll say it. I think we should, of course we should be caring about all issues, but who the hell is going to care about us if we don't care about us?
Well, I don't know what the national figures are on all people and how many donate. I know certainly a lot donate to churches.
Yes.
But we really need, we sit here every week talking about activities that are happening, and the more we help support those in whatever ways, volunteering our time, our money, our support, whatever, the more that can get done.
We are not allowed on this program to ask you to donate to specific causes.
No, but we will tell you about one cause that you might want to find out about, and that is New York's Gay Santa effort for homeless LGBT youth. And if you want information about that, you can go to newalternativesnyc.org. That's an alternative organization.
And if you email Kate at newalternativesnyc.org, that's our friend Kate Barnhart, she'll tell you how you can be a gay Santa.
Yeah.
Yeah. In New York, a crime story, there was a guy named Edgar Mercado who was killed. A 39-year-old gay man strangled with a rope during sex. The guy who did it, or no, who's accused of doing it, Devon Robinson, originally said, he attacked me, he attacked me. That was the story. That's what he told 911, everything. Well, now he's changing it and said, no, it's just a sex scene gone wrong.
Rough sex.
She's trying to change his story.
Well, John Cadis, who was the young man who killed George Weber, stabbed him 50 times, claimed self-defense. 50 times. Wow. He was convicted, as we have told you, and he has now been sentenced to 25 years to life. Now, it was a horrible case, and his defense was really awful, and he's clearly a scumbag of a guy, if I may say that. But I realized that when he did this, he was 16 years old.
Oh.
And we have talked on this show about the guy in California who was
14 when he committed the crime.
Yeah, and I think this guy was much more mature. He was advertising for paid sex on Craigslist, but still, he was 16 when he committed the crime. So 25 to life?
Right.
I don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Oh, we want a more humane society.
Well, in a more humane note, there will be a memorial for our beloved founder, Lou Maletta, next week, December 20th, Tuesday at 7 p.m. at the LGBT Community Center here at 208 West 13th Street. I'll be there. You can't make it, but December 20th.
I'll be there in spirit. We loved Lou.
We love Lou. 7 p.m. on December 20th at the Community Center.
Right.
All right, should we do some international news?
Well, I got a couple of other things.
Oh, okay. Well, we're running out of time.
Sure. 4 area Presbyterian churches have left the denomination over gay stuff. Come on, what about that victory for the transgender person who worked for the General Assembly in Atlanta? She won.
We got that
Susquehanna
last.
Township has passed its gay and transgender bill.
In Pennsylvania and in Philadelphia, Mayor Nutter has signed a contractors' benefits law requiring those who do business with the city to offer equal benefits to same-sex partners.
They did that. And the governor of Puerto Rico has come out against this effort to remove sexual orientation and gender identity from the hate crimes law.
Yep.
Paul Varnell.
Very iconoclastic Windy City Times columnist in Chicago, died age 69 or 70. I've seen both.
Yes.
He was famous because he and Rex Walkner, independent gay journalist, in 1989 went to the Cook County Marriage Bureau and tried to get a license to get married and failed, but started a lot of activism that way.
The Housing and Urban Development Federal has hosted its first seminar, a big conference for LGBT seniors. We're very concerned about that as we approach old age. And they're holding up an appointment for Obama's ambassador to El Salvador. She's not a lesbian that I know of. Her name is Marie Carmen Aponte. She's a Latina activist because she wrote a big essay in favor of gay rights, basically.
Well, also because she had an ex-boyfriend who was Cuban, who they thought was a commie.
That stuff was all, she was cleared of all that. That came up during when Jesse Helms was around.
Yeah.
And they cleared her of that. They don't like her because she's pro-gay.
Well, that too. All right, well,
but you can be anti-gay and want to help lesbians.
This is moving in. Let's skip that. We don't have time. Hold on to it in case we do have time. Okay. All right. In Hobson's Bay, Australia, they have elected Tony Briffa, out-intersexed guy, as mayor. He says, "I'm not male or female, but both." He was designated female at birth, but was found to be genetically male and now uses male pronouns. He says he's grateful for the years he lived as a woman. It has given him insights and experiences that he values.
And will march in the Pride March in official robes.
Not marching in the Pride March, I suspect, is Australian opposition leader Tony Abbott, who, we told you last week, the Labour Party has decided to allow a conscience vote on marriage. They are the dominant party, but the opposition party is strong, and he wants them to hold firm against marriage, which really undercuts the chances of it passing in Australia, because
yes, it does, because it won't be a conscience vote.
Yeah.
We told you about all these horrible murders of transgenders and gay people in Honduras, and a viewer reminded us that a lot of this is due to the fact that the Obama administration is supporting this, the military group that's running the place now, who have been perpetrating all this.
Good news from Malawi, which says it will review its criminalization of homosexuality after Hillary's speech. Someone actually took it seriously.
Go ahead. Ban Ki-moon, who's the Secretary General of the UN, says that homophobic bullying is a grave threat to human rights around the world, not,
And great news from Great Britain, where the government has launched a transgender equality plan. They're going to strengthen punishments for hate crimes. They're going to help students in schools, both ending bullying and promoting education around transgender issues. They're going to help with employment for transgender people and improve health services. It's a comprehensive approach that would be unimaginable in this country from the federal government. So congratulations.
Nigeria is continuing with its comprehensive program of criminalizing same-sex marriages and people who go to them. A spokesperson, a lawmaker there said, we have a culture, we have religious beliefs, we have a tradition. We are black people. We are not white, as if this is a white issue.
Yeah. Russia, homophobia is in the news a lot there these days. They're in the midst of their elections.
Right.
The perception is that Putin is using homophobia to awaken, right-wing support. The European Union is now calling him on this. He is meeting with the European Union's High Representative for Foreign Affairs this week, and she has promised, after 250,000 signatures were delivered to her by allout.org, which is the new international organization, she is going to confront Putin on this.
And yet they allowed a pro-gay demonstration to go on, because it wasn't really a demonstration. It was people showing up one by one at the door with a sign in a little town called Archangel. As long as you're not a group, it's okay.
Well, that was one of the places they passed the no promo homo law, or as I now like to call it, the no promo LGBT law.
Okay.
AIDS news. Well, horrifying and yet hopeful news out of Detroit, where an HIV-positive man is suing his former employer, a dental clinic. He had been harassed and fired. He had been told he could not touch doorknobs. He was followed around by the staff who had Lysol that they were spraying on any surface he touched. He was given sudden schedule changes, and as a result of all this, he was fired. He has post-traumatic stress syndrome. He was made ill by all this, and he is suing. He is fighting back.
Right. We heard from a viewer who said he contracted HIV while he was in the service, and people kept urging him, you should apply for a disability pension from the military. And he kind of thought, oh, they're not going to give it to me. Well, he applied for it and he got it. And they couldn't understand why he waited so long.
Yeah,
so.
The Veterans Administration has been very friendly to him, so that's a place to look for benefits. All right, and the great news and entertainment news, Richard Hatch is out of prison yet again. The Survivor winner, season 1, with tax problems. And he says if he hadn't gone to prison last time, he would have been on the last version of the show, and he would have won the $1 million instead of Rob.
And Hulk Hogan is being, his ex-wife Linda Bolia is writing a book saying he is gay and violent.
Oh, God.
And he's saying, you know,
steroids make you gay?
He's suing her. But he says, I have a lot of gay friends. I'm not anti-gay. If it was true, I would admit it. And if I was a homosexual, I would embrace it. This is what Ed Koch used to say, by the way.
Ed Koch has endorsed Chris Quinn for mayor of New York.
Yes, who is an out lesbian.
And I don't think Ed Koch, and Ed Koch is the closet case. I don't think Ed Koch endorses many losers. He's very calculating, so
well, I mean,
may say something.
Well, we'll see. It's a wide open race.
Okay, so let's get to your reviews.
Well, let me just go through very quickly the 3 Irish monologues.
Okay.
Well, the best, of course, was by Samuel Beckett, Krapp's Last Tape, with John Hurt at the Brooklyn Academy of Music only till the 18th of December. So catch it while you can. I mean, it's a rare treat to see him do this role, although it's much too big a house for it. It should be in a little place like this. He can come over here and do it.
Okay. We can take a week off.
Cillian Murphy, who you know from the movies, 28 Days Later.
Actually, you can see the whole thing on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, right. You can look at Krapp's Last Tape. John Hurt and a number of other actors do the whole thing on YouTube. But that's not the same thing as being in the same room with it.
Right.
Being in the same room with Cillian Murphy doing this thing called Mr. Man by Enda Walsh, I have to admit, I mean, he's a great actor for the movies, you know him. But I have to say I was a little lost in that one. But I'm getting older. What can I do? And then the other Irish monologue was James X. It's a guy who has been abused all of his life. He's an adult now, and he's telling the story. And he starts out, he says, I'm going to tell you the whole story. He starts out in the womb, crushed on the floor.
Tristram Shandy.
Now, spoiler alert if you're going to go see James X. This is directed by Gabriel Byrne and produced by Liam Neeson. This is at the Culture Project in 45 Bleecker Street. He does this whole monologue about his whole life, and you're saying, well, I thought he was like abused, and he's had a very rough life, but he hasn't sort of gotten into it. And then he says, everything I just told you is the lie I've told myself all these years to cope with what really happened. And then he pulls out a sheet of paper and he reads what really happened. The Christian Brothers were screwing him up the rear and all this kind of stuff, which is horrible. So it kind of it was frustrating that he sort of didn't deal with it all along and just had this sort of theatrical conceit.
That's only the last few minutes?
Yeah, that's the last 10 minutes of the play where he gets to it.
It's
All right.
like why I didn't like other desert cities. I thought they should have moved the big reveal earlier in the play and talked about the results of that.
So, Lysistrata Jones, you know the story of Lysistrata. Anne explained it to me before we saw it. But the Greeks, it's this, what is it?
Aristophanes. It's the women who refuse to have sex with their men because the men are going to war.
So in this case,
they want them to go to war.
It's a college basketball team who can't win a game, and the cheerleaders are withholding their sexual favors.
I was so offended.
It's a musical.
I was so offended by the way they had twisted this that made me want to walk out right there.
And, you know, there's not some gay stuff until the end after Anne was gone, but that was kind of just I thought that was just kind of tacked on.
Yeah.
And, you know, this was a great success in the West Village, where I didn't see it, at the Judson Church, and we know a lot of people who had a good time at this thing.
Yes.
But we didn't.
Look, I thought it looked like, I don't want to insult high school musicals, but this looked like something that should have been a high school musical.
Right. It wasn't like Spring Awakening or one of those kinds of things.
There wasn't any depth, there wasn't any thought, there wasn't any sophistication to it. It was just...
Despite a book by Douglas Carter Beane, who we like.
I was looking forward to it for that very reason.
On the other hand, Bonnie and Clyde the musical, and I was kind of looking forward to seeing what they would do with this, but, you know, I mean, it's about two sociopaths who are killers, and they kind of make them kind of cuddly, you know, sympathetic characters. That doesn't work. It should be more like Sweeney Todd when you're doing stuff like that. It's one of those Frank Wildhorn things. And this is the kid, Jeremy Jordan, who was so good in Newsies. And he can't do Newsies in March because he's doing this, but believe me, this thing is going to be closed. You're going to be in Newsies, and you're going to be happy. Now, On a Clear Day You Can See Forever, you may remember the Barbra Streisand movie. It was a play before that. So they've done it, they've redone the whole thing. Harry Connick is a psychiatrist. He's with this homosexual patient, as they say. 1973, it's all pop stuff and everything.
That's no excuse.
He is the reincarnation, this effeminate gay man, of a torch singer from the 1940s who died 30 years ago, 1943 in this case.
Sounds like a cliche.
Every time he goes into a trance, a woman pops up from behind the couch, and and Harry Connick falls in love with the woman. So they have him dancing with all three of them and all this kind of stuff. And right before the end of the second act, Harry is in a clinch with the guy, because that's who's really there, and he's about to kiss him. Gasps in the audience, don't worry, the lights go off. And I was outraged.
Well,
I was outraged because you're saying we can't show this Harry Connick kissing a man.
Well, is this a Will Smith 6 Degrees of Separation moment where Will Smith refused to kiss a guy?
I don't know. I don't know. Let's not impugn. It's a director's choice. That's what they chose to do. But it hurt me to see that.
Andy.
It hurts when they treat us like you can't show this, especially when you're dealing with gay theme. I mean.
Well, it's a clearly homophobic move, whether it is a general homophobic move or a Harry Connick.
The gay guy is given a boyfriend who he does kiss, let me be clear. And it's got some beautiful songs. It really does.
I'll resist singing. No. Tell us about the good one.
The one I loved the most was Stickfly. Now, if you read the Times review, you know, they were kind of semi-dismissive of it. This is about affluent African Americans on Martha's Vineyard. There's always been they don't even
famous community.
They don't even live in the enclave. They live in the rest of the island. But this is by a woman named Lydia Diamond, and I hadn't known her work, but it's a lot of people you know in terms of actors. You know, Dooley Hill and Ruben Santiago Hudson. It is, I mean, it's 2.5 hours, and it was gripping and funny and real people and surprising things that they said and lots of reveals and all that kind of stuff. But there's a woman playing the daughter of the maid, Condola Rashad, and she's the daughter of Felicia Rashad, and she's going to win a Tony.
And you're not going to be here next week, but Chris Cooper will be, and then the week after we have our annual roundtable. But we'll see you, Chris Cooper and I will see you next week.
Break a leg, Chris.
Bye.
Bye.